let's start off with the main footballing issues. We start off with the Black Stars following their exit, quite shambolic, exit from the competition. Some people say on Monday, as they say on Tuesday, but whatever it is, the Black Stars are no longer part of the AFCON. They finished with 2 points. They've been kicked out. Following that, what a lot of people expected happened, really, and it happened late last night. Head coach Chris Hughton sacked, or as the FA put it, he had been relieved of his duties as Black Stars head coach with immediate effect. He and the technical team are all leaving because the technical team has been dissolved. The GFA says that in due time we'll hear what the plans are. But let's listen to what some fans have made of the decision to jettison Chris Hughton off the boat, throw him off the boat, and see if they can find somebody else to handle the national team as the World Cup qualifiers resume sometime in March.
The coach, the changes that the coach made it almost is wrong, because you cannot change a midfielder that will play football and bring a striker, because we have scored 2 goals. So we need to bring defenders. They will come and defend the game for us so that we will win. But as for Ghana itself, we need to change all the technical teams, all the technical people. Their performance is very bad, very bad.
The coach is also part, because I think the change that he made, bringing in the DIU, he didn't add any value to the second half. When he came, he didn't add any value.
All right, so some Black Stars fans expressing their displeasure with how Chris Hughton handled the team, especially in that game against Mozambique. Edwin, your thoughts? I don't think you are surprised, are you?
No, I'm not surprised.
Okay.
I said even before the tournament started that he wouldn't last beyond the AFCON. I didn't expect us to come home so early, so that you could say is a surprise to me. I'm very disappointed with his tenure, as we all are, not just in terms of the results, but in terms of how the Black Stars have played. We constantly talk about a philosophy, a style of play, and we've not got that under Chris Hughton with the Black Stars. Are we a counter-attacking team? I don't know. Are we a defensive team? I don't know. Are we a possession-based team? I don't know. It's a mishmash of all of them. Sometimes we don't play any of them and we just get beaten. If you are a manager or a head coach, you go into a team, you identify the players you want as quickly as possible, especially international managers, because tournaments are going to come and go really quickly. You are not going to have enough time with the players that you have at your disposal.
Okay.
So what you do is you identify a core of a team, ensure you have players that you know you can trust going forward, regardless of what happens, whether they make a few errors, whether they are unavailable for some games. You know that these players are going to make my team. What disappointed me about Chris Hughton was the constant changing, the constant addition of players that he knew he wasn't going to use. And there's been some talk that this decision or these decisions were not left to him. He had external influence. But you'd imagine a manager of Chris Hughton's repute, at least he's coached in the Premier League. He's been manager of the month in the Premier League. That is not a no mean feat. So you would hope that a manager of his reputation would be able to resist these external influences. Unfortunately for him, he couldn't. And we saw a clear manifestation of that external influence in the Mozambique game. I don't think the decision to bring Andre Ayew was his decision.
I see.
I don't think it was his decision. But ultimately, he made the choice to bring him in as the coach. So it falls on him. I think there was an external influence to bring Andre Ayew into the game.
That's what you suspect.
That is what I believe.
Believe.
That is
it's
what
not
I
even
believe.
a suspicion.
It's not a suspicion.
Okay.
Because of what was at stake personally for the player. Obviously, if the player gets a record or achieves a feat on the African continent, the acclaim also is shared with Ghana. So whoever made that decision wanted Andre Ayew to get to that feat, because they thought at that stage at halftime everything was in Ghana's favor. Cape Verde were ahead against Egypt. The Black Stars were ahead against Mozambique. It looked like the Black Stars were going to qualify to the next round. So there was almost no risk for them to bring Andre Ayew into the second half for him to break that record. But as a coach and as a well-respected coach across various continents, you'd expect better decision-making. You expect some steel from Chris Hughton. And I don't think we got that throughout his tenure with the Black Stars. Even the results didn't help. It would help to swallow some of the performances from the Stars if they were winning constantly. But those wins were very few and far between, and usually against opposition that we should be thumping, not just beating, but thumping. His record, 13 matches, he won 4, he drew 5, lost 4 across all competitions. That looks bad when you take a look at it. But a few of those games in there were uncompetitive matches. We talk about the USA match, the Mexico match, obviously the Namibia friendly before the AFCON. When you take away those uncompetitive matches, it drops to the winning percentage rises. So the games drop to 9, wins remain at 4, and then you have a few draws and a couple of losses in there. So the results don't look bad on the face of it, but you take a look at the teams we faced, the teams we've lost to. There was Comoros in there. No one expected us to lose to Comoros. And then there's Cape Verde in there. You don't expect the Black Stars, with the quality of players they have in their squad, to lose to Cape Verde. So I think it's a whole, a lot of issues which have led to Chris Hughton's failure. A lot of them have to be blamed on him as well. You can't just relieve him of any blame because there was a lot of pressure from the GFA or whoever pressures him into making some decisions on pitch. As a manager, you take responsibility. He has taken responsibility for the performances of the Black Stars. And when you take responsibility for an exit, a group stage exit, there's no way you are staying in the job.
Interesting. Yeah, so what should be the way forward?
What should be the way forward? Discipline and honesty.
Okay.
Yeah, discipline and honesty in the way things are administered in football in Ghana. Because if you are disciplined, you'll be mindful of the way you interact with fans, you interact with journalists, people who are stakeholders, who bring a lot to the table when it comes to the Black Stars. So you don't lose a game. You don't have the Black Stars lose a game, and you deliver another round of media blackout. Meanwhile, Nigeria, for instance, their first game in the AFCON, they drew 1-1 with Equatorial Guinea. What did they do? They opened up their doors to the media. People interacted with the players, and the goodwill that they got from interacting with the players, they sent and carried it all over to Nigeria and died down the heat. And the players felt that low pressure. And in their second game, they beat the host nation. In their third game, they beat Guinea-Bissau and ended up topping the group and qualifying. And no, they finished second behind Equatorial Guinea.
Yeah.
And so when you handle things the right way, in a disciplined way, things turn out well. Because let's face facts, everything that the Black Stars have gone through, especially when it comes to the administrative standpoint, it has been haphazard. And you can't cheat your way past Mother Nature. I'll put God aside. You can't cheat your way past Mother Nature. Things structured well will end up well. But for us, things weren't done well. And so this is the end result. And the honesty bit, that's when I would come in and say, yes, we haven't been honest, especially the football administrators, the handlers of the Black Stars. They haven't been honest in the way they administer duties or responsibilities in connection to the Black Stars. Because if you were honest and you were disciplined, you won't sideline a guy like Jeffrey Schlupp. If you were honest and disciplined, you won't sideline a guy or you won't have issues with a youngster coming through the ranks like Abdul Mumin. And this is a youngster. He hasn't gone through the ranks to experience all the politics involved in football administration at its peak. But already, after establishing himself in the Rayo Vallecano team, he gets 1 or 2 call-ups, and he already has issues with the team, with the national team, because of the people handling the Black Stars. then clearly there's a problem over there. And those are the things that needs to be solved. For the coach sacking him, he's always going to be the fall guy. He's always going to be the first factor in the domino effect to fall. And so, no surprise there, because at the end of the day, when he was appointed, there were a lot of expectations, and he failed to deliver on those expectations. So, for instance, he was expected to be the guy, the one who has the reputation to take the tough decisions. So, for instance, take the tough decisions. How is it that still Andre Ayew is still part of this group? How is it that for a manager who loves to have direct wingers, how is it that he still has Jordan Ayew starting games for the Black Stars? You look at the substitutions. You look at the timing of the substitution. Clearly, there was no improvement from what Ghana went through under Otuado, under Chris Hughton. There was no improvement, because how do you play Ransford Koenigsdorfer as a creative midfielder when in 18 games this season, the guy has never, ever lined up as a creative midfielder?
Okay.
He's played 15 games in Bundesliga 2 for Hamburg and 3 games in the German Cup. All of them, he's played as either a right winger, on occasions as a left winger, and has even been sparingly used as a centre forward. So how then do you use a guy who hasn't even been an integral part of the team, who has been on the periphery? He played against Liberia in that friendly 3-1 win over Liberia in that friendly. Then he started against Namibia. Then all of a sudden, boom, you thrust him into the starting lineup. If you can trust him with such responsibility, then how can't you trust a guy like Richmond Lamptey with such responsibility to play alongside Abdul Salih Samed? For a guy who plays for Kotoko, I mean, he's used to the pressure. He's used to this kind of pressure, especially in an African setting. So you make the decision not to even include him in the match day squad, knowing very well that Majid Ashimero, who has the same player profile as Richmond Lamptey, has an injury, has major injury issues. And Majid Ashimero goes off, and you are forced to play the much dreaded double six or double pivot that people just see it and they just can't stomach it. You should have seen the reaction of journalists at the stadium when Baba Idrisu was substituted, when Majid Ashimero went down with an injury, because they just knew that it was just bad. And the timing of his substitutions, awful. How do you bring in Osman Bukhari to replace Jordan Ayew in the 90th minute? For me, those things were awful. And lastly, there was no improvement in the sense of getting Ghana to better protect Leeds, or to protect Leeds better. Because you look at the World Cup under Otuado, we conceded 7 goals? Yes, 3 against Portugal, 2 against Uruguay, and 2 against South Korea. So 7 goals. Those 7 goals were spread across 13 minutes. Those goals were spread across 13 minutes. And you look at our competition, or our campaign in the 2023 AFCON, we conceded 6 goals in 3 games. And 4 of those goals came in the last 15 minutes. So clearly there was no improvement in that department too. So the man who was brought in to solve those issues that we identified under Otuado, who was a bit green, he didn't do anything to improve those issues. So he deserves to be sacked, but he shouldn't be the only one to go. If the folks who are handling the Black Stars are there occupying those positions that are renewable, that can be negotiated, and there can be a sack or a dismissal, those guys need to go. And honestly, I believe that with honesty and discipline, yes, we can get things right. But Chris Hughton, no surprise, he's just a fall guy, as any and every coach would.
Well, all right, we'll see how it goes. The Black Stars will have to find a new head coach for the World Cup qualifiers, which will start sometime in March. But for those who love trends and patterns, here's something for you to chew on. Now, in the reign of Keto Kweku, between 2019 and now, Ghana is yet to win an AFCON game, right? I mean, the last time Ghana won an AFCON game was in 2019.
Yes,
that was under normalization.
Yes.
2019 in Egypt. Ghana beat, was it Guinea-Bissau, I think? Was it Sao Tome? I'm trying to remember. They won 3-0. A game that had Jordan Ayew and Thomas Partey scoring.
Yeah, it should be Guinea-Bissau because that first game, Ghana drew 2-2 with Benin.
And then drew goalless with Cameroon.
Yes, it should be Guinea-Bissau.
So for our viewers, something for you to chew on. Ghana's last AFCON win was in 2019. So Ghana has played 2 AFCON tournaments since then. 2 AFCON tournaments since then. One in Cameroon, one in Cote d'Ivoire, and the Black Stars are yet to win an AFCON game. An AFCON game. The last win, like I said, came in a group stage because the subsequent game was a 1-1 draw with Tunisia. That was resolved via a penalty shootout. So Ghana played 1 game after that, 3 games in 2021, 3 games in the 2023 edition, and the Black Stars have won none. If you go back to the start of the 2019 tournament, Ghana has won 1 AFCON game, 1 AFCON game, 1 in Egypt, none in Cameroon, none in Cote d'Ivoire. Guys, those are very worrying numbers.
Yeah. Maybe Ghana doesn't like playing on Francophone soil, Francophone country soil, more or less, because Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, yeah.
Tunisia too. No, in Egypt.
Yeah,
Sorry, in Egypt. So they won only 1 game. So maybe Ghana cannot play games anywhere else.
I mean,
but just finally, as we wrap up on this, so
dreadful.
It was quite obvious that Chris Hughton's output was poor. So his getting the sack, nothing wrong with that. It was quite expected. Now, what do we do to the people running the game? Because the GFA boss, he has the entire administration at his beck and call.
Nathan, you can't take them out.
Yes.
You can't take them out. So it's down to the individuals to be honest and disciplined in the way they handle affairs.
Should the government get closer to how football is run? Should the government be a bit more interested?
No. I think because of the nature of our politicians. Yes.
Okay.
So if they get too close, they become very meddling and easily trip up the red line FIFA draws when it comes to interaction between politics and
But FIFA
sports.
frowns on interference. For example, if the government removes the FA.
Yes,
but what about Edwin? What about the government says, okay, GFA, you want to run football? No problem. We just want to be more interested in what you are doing. Since at a point you come for money from us anyway when it comes to the national team.
Exactly. And I was listening to our colleague, Godfred Akoto, earlier, and he made some really, really good points about how the government can dip a toe into how football is managed without crossing the red line, as Yao said. Selections into the All Africa Games, as he said, the government can say, GFA, let's put these sorts of players, let's limit them to graduates from universities, limit them to graduates from schools, because there's a lot of talent that we are not targeting. I think we are focusing too much, which is fine, on the academy system. We are not focusing enough on the school system. I think we can learn a lot from the US basketball system, where they focus on talent developing right from high school all the way to the collegiate level and then to the professional level. We don't do that. And it's a bit worrying because we are letting proper talent, wonderful talent at the school level just disappear into nothing. These are players who can be encouraged because they've not been given an option. They've not been told that, you can do sports and also learn and also take up a profession and also better yourself in other areas. It's not one or the other. That is what a lot of players have been told. You do one, you have to leave the other. If you want to be a professional, if you want to develop yourself intellectually, you can't do sports. And that is not right. This allows players who should be the ones that we go for, intelligent players who are willing to learn and then have the talent to compete. These are the sorts of players that any nation would die for. We haven't invested enough on that. And I think the government could employ a quota system. Not like a stringent system, but a sort of a quota system to allow talent to be taken from these school levels and brought into the national teams under 17. We can ensure that we get a steady flow of good quality talent from there into the under 17s. And those same players should be allowed to progress into the under 20s if they are good enough. And I'm certain there are good enough players who can go from under 17 to under 20 and then to under 23 and make it into the national team. We can't allow this talent to go just because a few people with vested interest in some players or some teams want those players or those teams to benefit from national team money and national team places. We can't allow that if we want to improve the system.
Just a quick one. How government can help improve football in the country? Well, for starters, especially when it comes to the Black Stars, limit the amount of money you give to them and police the expenditure.
You can't give 30,000 for a round of 16.
Yeah, you simply can. You simply can. It's absolutely bonkers. That should.
So how much will you pay if they
made it to the semi-final? That's the point. You need to limit it, and because the Black Stars have been spoon-fed, they become virtually very complacent, and they become spoilt. Yes, that's what I can say. They become spoilt. The Black Stars have become spoilt. The administrators have become spoilt, and so they are sleeping on their job. They are sleeping on the job because at the end of the day, I use this anecdote all the time. The government is the parent, and the student or the child is the GFA tied to the Black Stars. And every year, you give the child money. You take him or her to the best schools, buy the best clothes, best sneakers, pay school fees on time, provide books, hire teachers, private teachers, provide extra teaching at home. And the child goes to school, and year in, term out, the results are poor. But when the child comes to you, mommy, daddy, I want this, you keep on providing it for the child. Do you think that the child will be motivated to snap out of his or her bad habits? No, he wouldn't. And so for me, if you want the GFA to sit up and improve on what they do when it comes to administering duties in connection to the Black Stars, limit the amount of money you give them, or you police the expenditure. Make sure that everything that they do falls in line towards something. So, for instance, this Black Stars World Cup money, what prevented the government from tasking the GFA to put up a place of residence for the national teams to camp in, rather than having to spend money all the time camping them in or housing them in private hotels? Those are the things that government can do to ensure that the things that the Black Stars are connected to improve. We've seen that with Mauritania.
Yeah,
we've seen that with Mauritania.
10 years ago, Mauritania couldn't even. They got punished for being unable to get a team together to play a qualifier. 10 years on,
they're beating Algeria. So, and it was down to a collaboration between the government and the FA.
So meaning that the government and the FA can always have a good working relationship.
Work together. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to the traits. And the traits that you can never, ever go past, and we absolutely need in our system, are two: honesty and discipline.
All right. We'll see how things play out. Before we go on a break, though, just a few things for us to chew on. Now, ever since Ghana started taking part in the World Cup, every appearance has come with money, right? We've had payouts from FIFA, and I can say that we've made
at least 15 million.
More than.
At least.
That's fine, but
15 is small.
Let's consider taxes.
Made about 50.
Let's consider taxes.
That Ghana has earned about 50 million. Let's say between 40 and 50 million dollars from playing in the World Cup. What's there to show for it? Nothing. Now, recently, someone like Kujetua Blackwell, a member of Parliament, he said per the records that the House had received, Ghana had spent about 27.9 million cedis on the Black Stars, dating back a few years. So we are talking Chris Hughton's salary, player salaries, bonuses, CK Akuno, Milo Van Rahiva. Yes. So we are talking from about 2018, 2019, thereabouts.
Yeah, and I remember very well that the former sports minister, Neil
so I'm told it's from 2021 till now. We spent almost 30 million cedis on the Black Stars with absolutely nothing.
Yeah. And I remember back in 2017, the former sports minister, Neil Van der Poel, he made a statement, and it was captured in some of the portals as far back as 2016, before there was a change in government. And he said the government spends about at least 1 million cedis on the Black Stars per every call-up that they make. 1 million. $1 million. Equate it into dollars. And just think about the number of games we play for qualifiers, home and away, for international friendly games, all of those things. Look at the amount of money that you spend. You cannot be spending that amount of money on the Black Stars. Leave it to the GFA. Let them police their expenditure. Then they will get things right.
Well, like I said, we'll see. But